Yes, we are live and we have 5 people on air. Welcome to tonight's D91 District 91 webinar series on club growth and membership retention. My name is Wale Oshosami. I am the club extension chair, and presenting with me tonight is Jackie Rosa, assistant area director, area 29. She's also Pathways Guide and the immediate past president, Riverside Communicators. Jackie, do you want to say hello to attendees tonight?
I certainly do, all 5 of you. So thank you for attending this evening, and I'm sure there'll be lots more people joining us. So very welcome to retain your membership.
Yes, so if you can hear me, can you just type in your name and your city? So I've got Leonce from Quebec, Canada. Whee! Richard Murray here with us tonight. Thank you for attending. Andy O'Sullivan is also here. That's good. It's good to have you guys with us tonight for this series. Jackie and myself are just having a chat, and she's also invited our club members to attend tonight. I must say, attending a webinar is not because you are bored, but it's just part of what District 91 is putting together so that we can share best practices amongst clubs. This webinar series is usually for club officers and interested club members in District 91 and abroad. In fact, beyond District 91, we've got someone from Canada with us tonight. And it's all about promoting best practices, membership growth, and retention. So Jackie is an immediate past president of Riverside Communicators. She is a Pathways Guide, and she's our presenter tonight. Jackie's going to be talking about retaining members. I know that many of you have been with us for the past few weeks, and you have had quite a lot about membership growth, and some of you have presented. But then the more you hear it, the more you get better at doing it. Some of the things we forget, and other things we just hear from another angle. So Jackie is going to be presenting a different angle on membership growth and retention using the acronym Retain Your Members. So welcome again. Once again, my name is Wale Oshosami, and our presenter tonight is Jackie Rosa. Thank you all for coming. Lucy from Jordan, Tommy from Denmark, Gina from Croydon, Florian Bay, D91 Membership Growth Director, Club Growth Director, pardon me, and Lucy Sanef. Just to say, if you have a connection problem, you can just simply refresh your browser. That's how you reconnect. So thank you once again. Now we're just going to go to tonight's session with Jackie. So I'm going to hand over to you, Jackie, to get on with tonight's presentation. Jackie, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Wally. Very welcome to everybody, especially those from around the world. It's really lovely to recognise that you see the importance of this this webinar. I'm going to turn my webcam off because I think it's important that you focus on what we have to talk about. So it's going off now. So what I'd like to do is start off with let's go back to the first one first. Sorry guys, already things have gone slightly pear-shaped. And now you've got a preview of everything, so aren't you lucky? Sorry about this, I'm not quite sure what's gone on, but we'll get there. I think I've been a bit heavy-handed with my mouse, that's what it is. So what we're going to be talking about this evening is we're going to look at your membership and find out, what is happening in your club. I want to explore as well the expectations of your members and, what is it they want from you? What is it they want from your club? And we'll be exploring that. And also really important is what actions are you going to do? What actions are you going to take away from this webinar? So that's really important. So I want you to think about that as we go along. What sort of things are you going to be doing? So first things first is I'd like to just find out what challenges that it is that you're currently facing. So at this point, if you could put your comments into the chat box, then we can sort of understand what challenges you're facing. So when it comes to retention, so don't be shy. And now there's 20 of you now on air, so please make your comments and let me see what's happening. So what are the challenges that you're facing when it comes to retain your members? Okay, so some things are coming through. One of them is around 50% turnover. We'll actually have a look at that in a moment about turnover. That's a really important point, I think. And also somebody else has said keeping members after their CC. So we talk about drop-off points. We're going to look at that one too. Those are really, really important points. Richard's talking about getting experienced members involved and keeping members engaged. So these are all really, really relevant and valid. So let's take a look then. So what I've done is I've used the acronym R.E.T.A.I.N, and to start off with, guess what we have? The first point that I'd like to make is recruitment, because if you notice that membership turnover is naturally anyway between 30 and 50%. So I know that was one of your concerns. So I would say just accept that's the way it is. But what is important is that you have to keep up your recruitment. So it's a never-ending story, really, isn't it? That you're constantly having to think about your membership recruitment. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. Obviously, we've got the Talk Up Toastmasters campaign, February, March this year. So think about that. Keep focusing on recruiting. And then, use social media to attract new members. It's really important that you do get those members in because of that high turnover. That is just the way it is. Now, I don't know if you actually use Toastmasters International to find resources, but it's a mine of information. There's a lot of information there that people often do not use. So if you're not sure what to do, speak to your president, your area director. Florin is a good source of information, and Florin is on the call tonight. So he has produced lots of documents, and he can tell you where to go to get some help. So it's important that you do recruit. If you want to retain your members, you've got to keep that going because of that turnover figure. Okay, so any comments on what we've just spoken about? And it's interesting, Dave saying, just looking at his comment, problem members leave after speech 3. I'm not sure if it means problem members or member is a problem because members leave after speech 3. There's what we call drop-off points, and people leave around about 3, 4, and 5. And also once they've completed their CC, their competent communicator manual. So again, it's recognizing where these points are. Okay. Again, just look at the comments that we've got. You retain people by mentoring, and again, I'll be discussing that one a bit later on. And it is all about keeping your members engaged and keeping them, and recognizing what's happening in your club. So thanks for all your comments. Nadia's having some problems, so hopefully you can get those solved. Okay, so thanks for your comments, guys. They're really useful. So the next point is expectations. So it's really important to know what the expectations are of your members. So, you know, you have to ask yourselves, well, why did they join? Do you really know what your members want from the club? Are you asking the questions? Do you understand what their goals are? And have you made some assumptions about what it is they want from your club? One of the ways that you can do this, of course, is that you can use moments of truth. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the moments of truth. There is also a moments of truth survey, and that will actually help you learn and understand what it is that people want from the club. It'd be interesting to find out what it is that you're all doing when it comes to recognizing and understanding your members' needs. Because if you think about any sort of business, one of the most important things is, what do your customers want? How do you find that out? What are you doing to establish what it is they need? So I'd like to hear from you. Tell me what it is that you're doing, so that you know that you're actually doing everything you can for your members, so that you're keeping them. Well done, Nadia. You're back. Good to see you. Okay, okay, guys. How's it going? What are your thoughts when it comes to membership? What sort of things are you doing? How are you establishing? So let me read what Vicky's got to say. We recently did the survey, and it highlighted that members were not clear on what the committee does behind the scenes. So this is now being rectified. And that's a really useful point, isn't it? That if your members don't understand what's going on, then you have to find out. You have to speak to them. And if you don't do that, if you don't find out, then you'll never know. Nadia has commented, and glad that she's back. As VPE, ask each members what their goals are and expectations from the club. I think that's a really important point, Nadia. However, I'm very aware that not everybody does that. And Naomi is saying that she uses the new members survey. And again, surveys are really, really useful for finding out what members need. And Steve, thanks, Steve, for your comments. You know, Speechcraft can be a good introduction to members. And the Moments of Truth is coming up quite a lot. It's such a valuable document, you know, because it speaks about you know, first impressions. You know, what impressions are you giving to new members? But not just new members. You know, what's happening to members who've been there for quite a while now. You know, the membership orientation. How are you inducting them into your club? Are you doing all the right things? Are you making them feel welcome? You know, is it a warm club? So the first point on the Moments of Truth is around fellowship, variety, and communication. So again, is it a nice, friendly, welcoming club? And how strong is your membership? Do you have lots of experienced members? Do you have a lot of new members? And are the experienced members, are they helping the club as well? Or are they supporting it? So a lot of questions that it's important to ask. A nice point here from Nadia. She mentions that members fill a card that they write their one goal that they achieve in 4 months, and then gives themselves their own advice on how to achieve this. These cards are placed in an envelope and they're sealed, and then 4 months later, each member opens them and then reflects to see if they have actually achieved that goal. That's a great tip to share. Thanks, Nadia. That's a really useful one. So what you're doing is you're getting members to establish their own goals and then put them in an envelope and seal it, and then checking 4 months later to see if they've actually achieved it. So that's a great tip. Thank you for that. So just moving on to the next point. This is a guy who's, to me, is quite inspirational, and whether you like him or not, you can't. I don't think you can disagree that Richard Branson is quite an inspirational person, and I love this quote from him: "Train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to." And I think that is a great quote from Richard. And really, the most important thing, as he's saying, is all about training. So the question you have to ask yourselves is, have all your officers had, club officer training? Now, Toastmasters International just say that, well, 4 is enough if you want to get your DCP points. But, to me, I think it's important that every single officer goes to club officer training, because I don't quite see how you can do the job properly unless you know something about it. And also, it's great for networking. And I think, especially for fairly new officers, they need to network. It's important to find out what's happening, in other clubs and what other people are doing. I think one of the other important points as well is, did your officers have a good handover? And were they clear on the role? Did they know what was expected of them too? It's also about their expectations. And as I've just mentioned, do you encourage members to visit other clubs? Because I think by going to other clubs, you'll find out what's happening there. What things are they doing? What tips can you learn? And it's just like tonight, isn't it? How can we help each other? How can we learn from each other? And the final point on here, I think, is, does everyone give great customer service? It's not just about the officers, is it? It's all about everybody in the club. Does everybody show their support? Do they speak to the guests, or do you have quite a sort of a cliquey club? So really important, I think. Training to me is vital, and I don't think you can underestimate it at all. Now, of course, one of the things that's coming, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a Pathways advocate. I can't shout it from the rooftops high enough. I think Pathways is going to standardize everything. I think every club and every member will have the same sort of learning experience. But also, there are so many resources available in Pathways. So when it comes to things like the mentoring program, once people start doing the mentoring program, that is going to help a club, because the training will be consistent. Everybody will be doing the same thing. And I think once you get the mentoring right, to me, that's one of the most important things. It will certainly help the club flourish and retain your members. And what I like about Pathways in terms of retention, it's attractive. Going around giving my Pathways presentations, a lot of millennials love it. They recognise the relevance of it and how useful it is to them in their own careers. But it's not just millennials who are interested. The rest of us find it really interesting as well. It's interactive. There are videos, there are quizzes, there are tutorials. There's so much. I could go on and on just about Pathways, but that's not what it's about tonight. It's about retention. So I think that's going to make a big change for us all in the sort of months to come and years to come as well. I think that's certainly going to help with retention. Okay, so your opportunity now to share your thoughts. You've put some really interesting points down, and I'm loving your points, the things that you've got to say. So share with me in terms of training, the sorts of things that you're doing, and the things that you think are really important. And thank you, Wally. Wally loves the quote from Richard Branson. I love it too. And what's been your experience of Pathways as well? Are you excited as I am about Pathways? It'd be good to hear. Do you agree with me that Pathways is going to make a difference? Ooh, things seem to have gone quiet.
Not quite. We're still waiting for the chat to come up. So
okay, all right. You've been so vocal today, so really appreciate that. And it's I think it's really important that you do share your ideas and your thoughts. Okay, and Steve is saying that the last round of presentations was a lot clearer on what it would be like. I think I've come to realise that some clubs that I go to have members who belong to several clubs. So the members who've seen Pathways more than once, I think it starts to register with them, and they start to recognise, once they've seen the presentation 2 or maybe 3 times, the value of it. I think it's like anything new, isn't it? It takes you a while for it to all sink in. Oh, and Naomi, wow, I was so excited about Pathways. I bought my second path on level 2. Fantastic. That's brilliant. That's really good to hear. And Andy's very excited about Pathways. I wouldn't expect anything else, Andy O'Sullivan. So some of you have already started Pathways, and some of you are waiting. And somebody's waiting. Vicky, you're waiting to get your Pathways icebreaker. I don't know if you know that you can do your Pathways icebreaker. You can do it on Toastmasters International website. You don't have to wait for our March the 20th rollout. You can do your icebreaker now. I think that's going to be a real head start for you. Okay, well, let's move on then, shall we? Some really useful points. And this is one that we've sort of covered in a way. This is about analysing what's happening in your club. As you can see, this is Google, and there Google. We're all familiar with, I think, with Google Analytics. So it is important to analyse what's happening in your club, and that's so important. But when was the last time you actually did it? Do you know what's happening in your club? And some of you already are, because you've spoken about people leaving maybe after their third project. The drop-off points are around about 3, 4, and 5, and when people have completed project 10, so they're when they've completed their CC manual. Do you know what your attendance is? I know quite a lot of you using Easy Speak, and that's quite easy to check what's happening with your attendance. But what is the engagement? What are people doing? Are they signing up for roles, for example? And have members left that you weren't aware of? One important thing that I think most of you will find is Florian quoted on his on the WhatsApp message that Riverside Communicators, the club I belong to, we have an 80% retention rate compared to the average of 65%. If you don't know what your retention rate is, Florian can actually give you that information, and I've already spoken to him, and he's quite happy for me to say that you can contact him. So find out what your retention rate is. And Miriam saying Easy Speak is brilliant. I check attendance on every meeting. Well done, Miriam. That's fantastic. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? It's understanding. If this was a business, this was your business, what would you be doing? Would you be just letting the things just slip or slide, or would you be looking very, very seriously at your figures, your stats? they're crucial to the success of, I think, of any business, and it's the same with your club. Okay, do we have any more questions on that? Okay, and Florian, I don't know if you can probably see it here that Mike Rafferty has a lot of good information on the retention rate too. So Florian has put a link in the chat box. So please make sure that you take note of that and follow it up, because that is really, really important to you. Okay, so any thoughts on what we've spoken about in terms of retention rates and the things that you are doing and things that you feel you ought to do? You know, now that we've had that discussion, what things have you recognized that you're not aware of? And Florian's spoken about a spreadsheet that calculates retention and guest rate is sent to every in every D91 leaders update. Florian is the expert in spreadsheets. I'm not a great fan of them myself, but you know, they are very, very useful. So what things are you doing? Okay, so we're just waiting for you to share your thoughts. I know I've asked you to share your thoughts a lot on this particular webinar, because I think it's really important. Okay, and Lucy she's in a division without Easy Speak, so she's going to try and convince them to start with it, so that you can have this information. And it's true, Lucy. Easy Speak has its challenges, but you know, it gives you an awful lot of information. And Steve is saying that there appears to be engagement of the top third in a club that seems to take 2/3 of speaking slots. Not quite sure I followed that one, Steve. Perhaps you can just clarify that one. And well done, Lucy. It's in your Getting Easy Speakers in your high performance leadership project. So well done. And Tommy said about members about to leave. You got swiped by a member who moved to a new city without anybody knowing it. Tommy, I think we have to accept things like that are going to happen, and they're probably not going to affect your figures too much. I think it's what's happening on a regular basis. Nadia, really great point from Nadia. Well done, Nadia, for all your comments. We've created a burger concept that illustrates the importance of taking up roles and speeches. And this has created competition. And now we have all roles and speech slots taken up 5 weeks in advance. That's amazing. And Florian is also saying that if somebody needs to leave for say 6 months due to a baby, for example, they can actually remain on the books at a reduced rate, but they can't do speeches or roles. That's a really interesting point, Florian. That's something I wasn't aware of. So that could be really useful to keep people in. And Nadia, so Lucy is saying, Nadia, how did you implement this in your club? Maybe Lucy and Nadia could perhaps get together after the webinar and have some discussions. But yes, this burger concept sounds really interesting, Nadia. Okay, and we've got some clarity from Steve. Split the top, median, and bottom thirds of a club membership. The top most engaged third will typically take 2/3 of the speaking slots. Okay, that makes sense. So I think that's an interesting point, Steve, that if the top most engaged third are taking 2/3 of the speaking slots, does that mean that we're alienating some people? I think that's certainly food for thought. And lots of comments, Nadia, on your burger concept. So from David. And Steve agrees with me, yes, that we possibly are alienating some of our members. So does your club have a sort of clique then? The people who are mostly engaged, are they the ones who are doing everything and perhaps alienating others? So I think that's certainly food for thought. We need to think about that one. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. But thank you for sharing that, some really, really useful information. So the reason for this slide is about sparkle. It's a sparkler, as you can see. It's pretty obvious, but it's about inspiring people. So the question is, do your meetings sparkle? You know, what are your meetings like? Do you have inspiring speakers? Are you inspiring your speakers as well? And again, do you invite members or speakers to visit your club? And how creative are you in your meetings? There's some amazing things that you can do, some really great ideas around being creative in your meeting. I think when I was president, for me, I was a bit conservative in many ways, although I'm quite a creative person. I felt that Toastmasters was fairly formal, and I had to stick to the routine. I had to stick to the format. I couldn't veer away from it. But after I was in the role for about 6 months, I realized actually I can break out of that mold. I don't have to be very formal. So for me, as president, it was about having fun. So instead of a very simple thing, instead of shaking hands with people when I presented their awards, it was always a big smile and a big hug. And I know you can argue that these days maybe we shouldn't make physical contact, but I think when you know people quite well, then it's important that you share how pleased you are. And I just felt that just shaking hands was quite formal. So for me, there was quite a sort of a step change in my way of doing things. And I think if you've got officers, especially presidents, who are slightly concerned about being too creative, then it's okay, is what I'm saying. You can do it. So, thoughts on that one? Are you creative? What sort of things are you doing? How are you inspiring your membership? What sort of things are you doing? Are you having inspirational speakers in your club? Let's share some ideas on what's actually happening. I mean, people have told me about doing back to front meetings. I've never actually done one myself or attended one, but I believe it works really well where everything is back to front. So you start with the end and work backwards, or do you work forwards? I'm not quite sure, but they sound great fun. I'm really looking forward to your great ideas on the things that you are doing, because if we don't have great meetings and we don't satisfy our membership's needs, then of course we're not going to be able to retain our members. They're going to go somewhere else, or they may just not come back to our club at all. So what sorts of things are you doing then? And thanks, Nadia, for sharing your email. I'm sure several of you will be in touch with her. How are we going, guys? Have I flogged you to death? Have you run out of ideas? Oh, you've all gone quiet. I think I must have exhausted you. Do you reckon I have, Wally? Do you think they're
No. I think people are just typing things in, but Andy's chipping in a few ideas here about giving members opportunity to speak at meetings. I think that must be something they do at their club to provide a sparkle. I guess every single member speaks at the meeting, so that's one thing they do at Andy's club. Robert says that yes, look at the last speeches and export to Excel and do the count. Oh yes, Andy, thank you for that. That's a sparkle. We're actually talking about comments on Sparkle. I'll let you get on with it, Jackie.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So I missed some of these questions, but let's have a look. We've got some really, really good ones. Nadia, if I'm in London, please come to Covent Garden to see us. I'd love to do that, Nadia. And Vicky says, thank you for your permission to break out. My pleasure, Vicky. I know how difficult it is when you're a president. You want to do all the right things and sort of frightened of being creative. So this is a question for Steve, which from Robert. Does EasySpeak have the capability of calculating the top, middle and bottom thirds to identify the most and least active members? That's a good question, Robert. I'm not sure if I know the answer. But do you know the answer, Steve? So does EasySpeak do that calculation for us? And Lucy says that in one of her clubs, guests become members because of the enthusiasm in the club. And I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about making sure that everybody's, it's your club is sparkling. People want to be there. They want to enjoy it and have fun. To me, it is about having fun. You don't learn if you don't have fun. And Andy's telling us about, yes, every member has an opportunity to speak at the meeting. Oh, thanks, Naomi. So she said, I did backwards meetings. We hand out a card with meeting roles and start the meeting with the genuine evaluator. Then everybody had to speak about what is about a made-up speech. So it does work, and that's fantastic, Naomi. Thank you for sharing that. Well done, everybody. Thank you. And Steve has now responded to Robert. Yes, look at the last speeches and export to Excel, and then you can do the calculations. I'm sure some of you are excellent at Excel spreadsheets. As I say, I'm not, so I have to hand it over to somebody else to do it for me. But spreadsheets are really useful, and it's all about those statistics again. And EasySpeak will give you a lot of information. So great stuff. Okay, so let's just move on then. So I thought this was a very sweet little picture. So it's all about nurturing, and of course that's the last point in our retain your membership. It is about nurturing, and these are things that we have covered as well. Do your members feel welcome? And, is the mentoring program working? Because, as I said previously, in Pathways, there will be a consistency and a standardization. People will know what mentoring is all about. But until that point, is the mentoring program really working? How effective is it? Do your mentors know what their role should be? And do you actually have a mentoring program? I'm sure the ones of you here on the webinar are the ones who are engaged and probably are making sure that the mentoring program is working. But there will be some clubs that perhaps are not using it effectively. But as I say, come Pathways, I'm hoping all those sort of things are going to change. And then, as we've already mentioned, does everybody get a chance to speak? What sort of things are you doing so that everybody can speak? And sometimes when you've got so much to do in a meeting, it's not always easy to do, is it, to get everyone to speak? But I know what Andy does generally, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this with you. He just asks a question, and every single member in the audience will just give their answer to it. It may only be a short answer, but it doesn't matter. It's making everybody, or giving everybody that opportunity to speak. Okay, and we've just spoken about alienating members of the club. And this is really the point that I was making. Do advanced members feel wanted? Are you able to satisfy them? And the same for the new members. Do they also feel wanted? If the advanced speakers maybe, or the engaged members are taking all the speaking slots, well, of course you're going to alienate people, and that's not going to be good for your club. One of the things we've done at Riverside is we've done to help with this particular issue. For our advanced meetings, we've created an advanced speakers meeting, which is outside of our normal meeting. It's not a club, it's just a meeting for advanced speakers to have that opportunity. And we open it up to anybody. So if anybody wants to come along to Riverside's advanced speakers meetings, please let me know. And also, speakathons are really useful, where you have maybe 5 or 6 speeches and shorten your table topics. And also you can do that just for new members. So the whole meeting is based around new members. So, people who are on projects maybe 1, 2, and 3. So, I think what that does, it does make them feel, gosh, yes, that, they're really interested in me. They're interested in what I have to say. And it doesn't mean to say that everybody will be on the same level just because you're on project 1, 2, or 3. People start at different levels anyway in terms of their speaking ability, but at least they're sharing. They're knowing that, yes, I've only done my speech number 1, and I'm quite nervous, and probably somebody else is nervous too. So, right, okay. So those are the points that I have to make. I will have a look at your comments here. So Tommy is saying it's making sure that everybody speaks, and table topics is excellent for that. Absolutely. And sometimes, you can have a very, very long table topic session so that people do get that opportunity to speak. And it's a great opportunity, isn't it? Table topics. And Robert is saying that advanced members also need mentors. Perhaps a group of advanced members in a single club can actually mentor each other as a support group. That's a really important point. I can't underestimate the role of the mentor. What we did at Riverside when the new committee took over, the person who was in that role previously became the mentor to the new officer, so that meant that they could share their experience. They could benefit from the knowledge of the previous officer, and that worked really well. And is saying that we run an extra table topic session at the end of our evening meetings for all those who still need to speak. And that's a great idea. I know sometimes not everybody can stay late, but again, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, if somebody hasn't spoken. So thanks for that, Andy. Lucy spoke about a round robin. Again, it's a great idea. Just everybody has that opportunity then, don't they? So they can get to speak. Steve suggests splitting the table topics evaluation role so you get 2 speakers rather than 1. So that's an interesting point. Let me see if there's anything that I've missed. No, I think that's it. So I don't really think I need to actually make this point here, share your thoughts, because you've done really, really well, and you've made lots and lots of comments. Let me read some more. Vicky says that we do odd and even evaluators for table topics. That's a great idea. And Andy says we do what we can to help nervous members. For example, having the table topics master let a new and nervous member read one of the table topics questions. That's a great idea. A small thing to arrange, but a big step for new members, because it is all about making people feel inclusive, isn't it? And not alienated. And Robert's saying, let us not forget the time for transition during May and June from old committee to new committees, so we achieve mentoring for the leadership track too. And that's really important. We can't forget the leadership track. So some really, really great points there. Now, as we say, we've gone through all these points. Accept that you have to recruit people. That's just the way it is because of turnover, 30 to 50% of turnover. So just expect you have to do it, which leads me on to expectations. You know, the expectations of the members of your club. Do you know what they are? Make sure that you do. And make sure that, you know, everybody has been well trained as best as it can be. And analyze what's happening in your club. And don't forget, Florian can help you out with the analysis, or follow the link that he gave. And inspire your members. You know, make sure that your meetings do sparkle. And there's some fabulous ideas here, so I can tell that your meetings really are inspiring. And, you know, look after your members, nurture them. Make sure that there isn't one particular group that's being left out altogether. Make sure that you know who might be being left out, and just make sure that you're looking after them. You are nurturing them. So my next point is, and this is quite a serious one, really. What actions are you going to take to make sure that you do retain your members? And some great ideas as well. Steve has come up with run team table topics. That gives some people the confidence to get on stage for the first time, because it's a nerve-wracking thing, isn't it, when you get on stage for the first time? It can be quite horrible. So, you know, we've got to make people feel welcome and not nervous, because we all know how it feels. Okay, so what I'd like to hear now is, what are you going to do? What actions are you going to take that's going to make a difference to you and your club? We've already had some ideas, so I'd just like to hear some more, because there's no point in you know, talking about these things if nothing's going to happen. And of course, Wally's come up with a great idea, a 10D91 webinar series to get more ideas about membership retention. Well done, Wally. Some good bit of marketing there. Okay, and Tommy says that what he's going to do is talk with each member who's not been active and figure out why. And that's really important. I also think it's, you know, if you do the analysis, if you find out who's not been attending, it's not difficult to pick up the phone, and it doesn't always have to be on the shoulders of the VPE. It can be you know, spread out. For example, although I'm no longer an officer, I noticed that one particular member wasn't attending meetings, and I just contacted him, sent him a message, said, you know, I was worried about him, because I was concerned he might be ill. I didn't know what the situation was, and he just sent me a lovely message back to say that yeah, he had been really busy, he'd been on holiday, had lots of work commitments, and just thanked me for showing interest, because I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about showing interest. Lucy says that the Enthusiastic Club is doing a lot of social things where members meet and do things together. So think of karaoke, movie night, etc. I think that works really well in some areas. It's interesting in our club, for example, it hasn't been terribly successful. But what we do is we go to the pub after a meeting, and that's where we bond and make our relationships. So I think that social interaction is really important. And Dave says as well, run more social so you feel like a group of friends who do speaking rather than a group of speakers. I think it's a really relevant point. It's not always, you know, it's not always easy to do, but, you know, if you can do it, it works really well. Okay, there's a nice comment from Vicky. We are promoting pathways to former members. As a membership building exercise. That's a great idea. I love that one. Thank you. Thanks, Vicky. Oh, Lucy, you live in Jordan, so pub is not an option. Okay, it might not be an option, but I'm sure there are other ways you can have some sort of social interaction. And Andy says, we miss you message makes such a difference. I think that's a great idea, Andy. Yes, if you can just create a template. So all it has to then be done is just be sent out. You don't have to make a lot of effort. I think having been VP before, I'm very aware of how much gets dumped on the VP's shoulders. So anything that you can do to make their job so much easier. And then Naomi sent us a message. Check out this site from Greece on creative meetings. Great. Everybody copy that one down. That's really useful. And Bonnie, well done. Welcome, Bonnie. Bonnie says, induct new members and early new members with a welcome session so they know the roles and responsibilities and how to get started. Really, really important, I think, isn't it? It is about that induction. And Vicky says, we've started table topics in the local pub once a month for members and for non-members. That's fabulous. Because, of course, if it's in the local pub, and sorry, Lucy, but I know this, you can't do this for you, but what that's doing is interesting people in the pub as well about Toastmasters, because they can see what you're doing. And certainly one way of attracting members as well. And it's fun too, isn't it? It's a great thing to do. And Andy mentions that in his clubs, it's noticeable how the guests who socialise after the meeting join up. That's a really relevant point, isn't it? That the sociable ones want to be part of your club. So make sure that you get hold of them and you talk to them and you get them to socialise, then they'll probably join up. Great idea, Andy. Thank you for that. Some amazing ideas, guys. Thank you for all your time. Any questions just before we finish? We're sort of coming to the end of our session now, and as I say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. It's been amazing. It's given us some great ideas. Any more that you'd like to say, or any questions you'd like to ask? Steve is saying that we have run new member sessions across the area, which tends to get more people rather than waiting till enough come from a single club. So that's great. Actually, it's clubs working together to have sort of new member sessions. So I like the idea of that one, and that's the whole point, isn't it? Of being an area, you can actually work together. You can share the love, share the expertise, share the knowledge, share the work. So some great ideas coming through. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, David, saying thank you. Lucy. And Wally's going to have a chat in a minute. I'm going to hand you back to Wally. Thanks, everyone. You've done all the work. All I've done is just posed a few questions for you. So I'm going to hand you back to Wally. Okay, Wally.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for a very interesting, informative and engaging session. I really love that. I liked the idea of Sparkle. I just wouldn't keep you too much waiting, but I've got some announcements. One of the things I love about tonight is the fact that one of the objectives of this webinar series is the exchange of ideas amongst club members, and we have exchanged quite a lot of ideas. The objective is mainly to share best practices, and I can say that Jackie has enabled us to talk a lot about what we do very well in our clubs, and so we have shared best practice amongst ourselves. Just a few announcements about future webinars, which I think will be very interesting. Number one, many of you have been attending webinars, so if you do want to present on this webinar series, please just get in touch with me. We have some slots for future presenters. So please get in touch with me. I'm just going to put in my email address there, and we'd like people from, especially some of those who join us from abroad. It'll be good to have your take on membership retention. So please get in touch with me on that email. Our next webinar is going to be presented by none other than myself, Wale Oshosami, your District 91 Club Extension Chair. And it's going to be on running Healthy Toastmasters Club. Why do we need a Healthy Toastmasters Club? As a pharmacist myself, I know a little bit about healthy living. And one of the things that we look out for as Toastmasters, things like membership retention rate, what we call lagging indicators. By the time you get to the retention rate, it is probably a sign that there is some ill health with the club. So we want to keep our clubs healthy. We want to make sure that our members stay around. So next week, it's going to be about running healthy Toastmasters clubs. So please sign up for that. That's 2 Sundays from now, Sunday the 18th of March, 8 p.m. and it'll be presented myself. Here's the link to log on for that webinar. Thank you very much to all of you who have stayed on for tonight. As I said, if you do want to present on this series, please get in touch with me. Thank you to Jackie for presenting a very interesting topic. I must say that Jackie's putting a lot of effort to get to this point, and I really do applaud that she has put in. So thank you once again, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you. As an action point, as I said, please do join us with these webinars because they are learning points for sharing best practices. Jackie, anything else you want to say?
No, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for putting all their comments and sharing their ideas. It's been really useful, and people have made contact with each other as well. So, and if you want me to come to your club, I'd love to come at any time. Please send me an invite. More than welcome. All right.
All right. Good night, sir, and everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Looking forward to see you on the 18th of March, and the link is there.